Hello and welcome to this video on Superglue. This is the common household adhesive used to permanently affix to surfaces. Often these are broken things. The product we know as Superglue is properly called cyanoacrylate. That is a family of products that all have the same general elements and characteristics. All superglue quickly turns from a monomer to polymer via polymerization in the presence of water. This is a change from a short subunit to a long chain of those subunits. This long chain is substantially stronger and more solid than the monomer. One of the common applications is as a wound sealant and adhesives to hold wounds together while they heal. This last part is important when we look to the history of superglue. Many claim that superglue was used in World War II, but this is a myth. World War II used a different product called sulfanilamide, and superglue itself has no evidence to support its use in this era. Superglue would not see life as an idea until 1942. At this time, it was being investigated for clear plastic gun sights, not as a glue. This was all done by a person called Harry Wesley Coover Jr. His work would only be recognized much later on. His work was to create a resin or polymer that could be made quickly, easily, and cheaply. This would solve many of the problems that occur with glass. Glass being the standard material for scopes and other magnifying sights that were not iron sights. Despite developing cyanoacrylate, it never went anywhere. This substance had a very adhesive property, and in theory, it would have worked well for some of the applications, but it stuck to everything, and that was the problem. There was no way to really put it in a single particular role and then use it. As a result, this was effectively abandoned. It was not until 1956 that it was given a new breath of life by the same man working in a new business. This was again a military endeavor. They were now trying to make jet fighter canopies. While trying to do so, a colleague remade the cyanoacrylate product, and this was when it gained traction again. It was quickly realized that yes, it could be used and sold to the public as a quick setting adhesive. In fact, by 1958, it was sold to the public as Eastman No. 910. It was later licensed to Loctite, which branded it as Loctite Quickset 404 in the 60s. Loctite themselves developed their own formulation for cyanoacrylate in 1971. By the 70s, nearly 3/4 of all superglue type products of any manner on the market were sold by Eastman, Loctite, and Permabond. Also in the 70s, another major development was going on. You might know of this, the Vietnam War. For those of you who may not have heard about this, that is another war the US lost, located, unsurprisingly, in Vietnam. Humor about America's inability to win a war against a developing country, there's some serious parts to it. An average of 8 and a bit US soldiers died every day in Vietnam. A large portion of these were those that would die from wounds. If the wound could not be sealed, it would lead to the soldier's death before they could be taken to hospital. Superglue was an important tool to stop this. A wound could be sealed and closed over. This gave the soldiers precious time that they needed desperately to get the wounded soldier to help. Without that, they would bleed out and die. They might become infected and die. The wound itself may eventually lead to their death. Superglue was important to keep soldiers alive and looking out for their fellow soldiers. The original purpose for superglue currently shares very little with its application originally. It has very few roles in gun sights or jet fighter canopies. It can be found in some rather weird and wonderful ways though. One of the big ways that its role has continued almost unabated since the beginning is to be used as a sealant for open wounds. It is an especially useful tool as a substitute or replacement for sutures. It is quick drying, makes a strong bond, and does not create any extra penetrations in the dermis that could lead to infection. The product as it was originally made and as it is now has varied somewhat, especially in applications like this. The material had to be reformulated to make it less toxic. That in and of itself is not the worst thing imaginable. In fact, regular superglue is often used by various people, especially on their fingertips and hands, where they are regularly exposed to very rough material or where calluses form. The special formulations are primarily used in medical applications or veterinary science and healthcare. That's because they had to be approved by the FDA, who would not do so long as it caused irritation and possibly chemical burns. These products are now considered safe. That's a big change from the original application to create gun sights. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions that you have below.